Chapter 6:21 Doubts. Bailey Chongqing smiled and said, "Don't worry. This time, Zhu Shuai is really angry. He summoned many masters from the entire Jiangnan region, not just you. And this mobilization also requires a meeting with other senior executives in the region to discuss together. As for the specific situation, I don't know much about it." Bailey Chongqing spread his hands and said, "You should understand that I'm just a combatant." A strange color flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. Just a combatant? I'm afraid it's not that simple. To put it bluntly, Bailey Chongqing's strength is still a long way from the level of Bian Junwu and Deng Shintong, although he was reluctantly promoted to serve as the captain of the Black Robe team. But others may not recognize his identity. Zhang Yi didn't say it, but just nodded. "Then let's go." Bailey Chongqing and Zhang Yi walked in front, and the others followed behind. After leaving the subway station, they got on Bailey Chongqing's car and arrived at the password bar in a short while. Bailey Chongqing has his own private room here. It was not the first time that Zhang Yi came here. After entering the room, he sat on the orange sofa in the middle and crossed his legs. Liang Yu, holding Long Ming, took a curious look at the surrounding scene and sat down not far from Zhang Yi. Bailey Chongqing called the waiter and asked for 2 bottles of whiskey. Wu Di and Meng Xiu also ordered their drinks. "Zhang Yi and Miss Liang Yu, what would you like to drink?" Zhang Yi reached out and stroked Huahua's soft fur. "I want 2 glasses of milk." Bailey Chongqing. Wu Di couldn't help but complain. "You ran to the bar to drink milk?" Zhang Yi raised his head and looked at him. "Zhu Shuai may summon me at any time. Do you want me to go to see him with a full body of alcohols?" Bailey Chongqing smiled and said, "That's true. But you may not know that Zhu Shuai also often has a drink. After all, the weather is too cold, and white wine has become an important drink for people." Liang Yu said lightly, "I want a cup of oolong tea." Bailey Chongqing asked the waiter to serve the wine. After the waiter closed the door, Bailey Chongqing put away the smile on his face, sat up straight, and talked to him about Linhai City. The situation in Linhai City is very complicated. If it weren't for this, Zhu Shuai and other senior officials wouldn't have been so cautious in deploying troops. As for the Eclipse group, we actually collected some information through our own intelligence channels. They are very strong, and each of them is a Delta-level Inhuman. When they were in Neon, they were active in Kanto. Even the highest organization in Kanto, Izumo, didn't have a good way to deal with them. But even so, it is absolutely impossible for them to destroy 10 Inhuman troops so easily without any preparation. Zhang Yi frowned, and his back felt a little cold. "You mean there is a spy in Blizzard City? Who revealed all our actions to them?" Bailey Chongqing also frowned and said slowly, "This possibility is not impossible, but it is not great. After the end of the world, in order to prevent someone from attacking Blizzard City through information channels, the headquarters has adopted the most advanced information defense measures. The Operations Center is one of the most important departments in Blizzard City, and its security level is S level. No one can leak the news from there silently." Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said in a serious tone, "But if they did not fully grasp the intelligence of the 10 alien troops, they would never be able to wipe them out so easily. This is also what confuses us." Bailey Chongqing folded his arms and said in a deep voice, "Don't forget, this is a big era full of mutant creatures. None of us knows what kind of aliens the other side has. Perhaps this is the ability of a certain alien in the other team." Zhang Yi's breathing was a little heavy. "You mean the ability to predict the future? If there is such an ability, what can they use to fight this battle? No matter what you do, they can predict the trajectory of all your actions. It's like playing rock, paper, scissors, but you have to go first." Bailey Chongqing touched his head and said, "It's just a guess now. We don't have any solid evidence to prove it. But I don't think it's that exaggerated. If they really have that ability, they can completely take down all the alien organizations in Neon. Why do they have to cross the sea?" Zhang Yi folded his arms and sneered. "Speaking of which, it's just that the intelligence collection is not sufficient." Bailey Chongqing said, "You can't say that. In order to obtain their information, we have paid a heavy enough price." The smile on Zhang Yi's mouth slowly disappeared, and then turned into contempt. The price you are talking about refers to the first 10 alien organizations that applied to go to Linhai City, right? Bailey Chongqing seemed to remember at this time that Zhang Yi was also the leader of the Outer City forces. Perhaps it was because Zhang Yi's strength was too strong that Bailey Chongqing always looked at him separately from other aliens from the Outer City. There is nothing we can do about it. Bailey Chongqing smiled bitterly. Zhang Yi shrugged. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me. Come to think of it, I should thank you for reminding me at the beginning. Zhang Yi had no opinion on the actions of Zhu Zheng and other high-level officials in Blizzard City. This is a war. If the chess players want to seize the general, it is impossible to keep every chess piece. There must be chess pieces to be sacrificed. As long as it is not him, Zhang Yi, who is sacrificed, it doesn't matter. Zhang Yi's vigilance in his heart is stronger. Although he came with the intention of expelling foreign enemies, he would never agree to be a cannon fodder. Suddenly, another idea emerged in Zhang Yi's mind. Bailey, do you think there will be Epsilon-level existence among their peoples? Bailey Chongqing was silent for a moment, and even Wu Di and others couldn't help but look sideways. Epsilon. These 4 words have extremely huge magic. In the Battle of Tianhai City, they have seen what a terrifying existence it is. If Eclipse Moon really exists, then it would be much more reasonable to kill 10 alien teams in seconds. But Bailey Chongqing decisively denied this statement.
No.
The battlefield was recorded, and we clearly saw those Ronin take action. Although their strength is good, they are definitely not at the level of Epsilon. Zhang Yi nodded. If that's the case, there's still a chance. Those are Ronin, not little girls like Yuan Kongye, who have little combat experience. If Epsilon really existed, even if Zhang Yi went there is a possibility that he would be killed. Chapter Phoenix Court's Provocation. Zhang Yi and Bailey Chongqing were chatting, trying to find out the situation in Linhai City, especially the information about Eclipse Moon. He had already sensed that, if nothing unexpected happened, he would have to go to the battlefield. At this time, he had to collect as much information as possible. Bailey Chongqing didn't know much about the situation in Linhai City. The real core information was only in the hands of Zhu Zheng, Tu Yunlai, and other senior officials. But seeing Zhang Yi's serious look, he smiled and encouraged. Actually, you don't need to worry too much. For this operation, you people from the Outer City are just auxiliary. If it weren't for the lack of manpower in the investigation team, you wouldn't even need to come. Zhang Yi looked at Bailey Chongqing curiously. Will you go? Bailey Chongqing shook his head with a gloomy look. It's said that we haven't recovered from the injuries of the last mission, so we shouldn't participate in this operation. The battle with Yuan Kongye left everyone in the Black Robe team with serious injuries. But this reason was obviously a bit perfunctory. With the medical conditions in Blizzard City, most people's injuries would have recovered long ago. For example, Wu Di is full of energy now. To put it bluntly, it is because he thinks that Bian Junwu is dead and Bailey Chongqing cannot support this team. At least, he cannot take on such a difficult task. But you don't have to worry. If there is no accident, the Tianjin team will take on this task. They have never failed when they take action, Bailey Chongqing said with a smile. The doorbell rang outside the door, and the waiter brought in the drinks. Zhang Yi took 2 glasses of milk, one for Hua Hua and one for himself. It can be seen that you trust them very much. He drank milk while staring at Bailey Chongqing, waiting for him to speak later. Bailey Chongqing said, although the 6 major investigation teams are not convinced by each other, it is difficult to tell who is better. But the Tianjin team is indeed the one with the highest mission completion rate. The points they have obtained have always been at the top of the list of the 6 major investigation teams. Wu Di couldn't help but say, isn't it because their family is rich?
Zhang.
He almost couldn't help laughing. He wiped the smile from the corner of his mouth and said, you mean, he relies on the resources of the Deng family, right? Bailey Chongqing nodded. Yes, the Deng family itself is an important force in Blizzard City. Blizzard City relies heavily on them in terms of technology, especially in biotechnology. Origin bombs, various compounds that can strengthen aliens, are all from their Deng group, and Deng Shintong, as the direct descendant of the Deng family, is naturally the object of their full cultivation. Zhang Yi drank milk silently, and he smelled an unusual smell. Why does it sound a bit like creating a god? If Deng Shintong maintains this state, his prestige may even surpass the other 6 teams in the future. It's even possible that he will become Zhu Zheng's successor. Zhang Yi muttered to himself. This topic is a bit sensitive. But the Deng family's actions are too obvious, and many people know what's going on. Bailey Chongqing even said without hesitation, Blizzard City is now very dependent on the Deng family. Although Zhu Shuai is the supreme commander of Blizzard City, he also needs to give some face to the patriarch of the Deng family. It's not surprising that they want to take advantage of the chaos to gain more benefits. Bailey Chongqing said, and suddenly laughed and raised the whiskey in his hand. Ha ha ha, what do these things have to do with us warriors? No matter who is in power, as long as he can make everyone live freely, we will obey his orders. Drink, drink. Zhang Yi smiled and picked up the milk in his hand. Drives? Zhang Yi finished the milk in his hand. And Bailey Chongqing also happily drank a large glass of whiskey. It can be seen that he has a good alcohol tolerance. When Zhang Yi arrived in Blizzard City, a meeting with only a few people was taking place in the high-level conference room of the Combat Center building. Zhu Zheng, the Supreme Commander of Jiangnan Region, Lan Xinqing, the Secretary of the Commander's Office, and Sun Lushuan, the guard who is almost inseparable from Zhu Zheng. In addition to these 3 people, the next is Tu Yunlai, the Director of the Operation Department, Deng Yuanbua, the Chairman of Deng's Group, and Deng Shintong, the Captain of the Tianqian Squad. These people are the most powerful people in the entire Jiangnan region, except for the 4 captains of the investigation team who are on missions outside. And today they gathered together just because of one person. A person who was released by the Eclipse organization, the leader of the Yunzhou forces, Li Tianlong. In the first battle, all the 10 forces sent over were destroyed, and Li Tianlong was the only one left alive. But when he returned to Blizzard City, he quickly lost his vitality. And from the satellite phone on him, he found something that the Eclipse organization gave to Blizzard City. The boss of the Eclipse organization, the man who wears a gray newsboy cap and likes to wear a gray suit vest, gave something to Blizzard City. This important information was delivered to Zhu Zheng as soon as possible. This is exactly why Zhu Zheng summoned so many high-level officials from Blizzard City. The lights in the conference room were turned off, and the huge screen lit up, and then the face of Fingguangdi Wenren appeared. The big guys sitting below were all eager to see what this arrogant Ronin leader was going to do. After the video played for a few seconds, the man in his 30s smiled very brightly at the camera and waved to say hello. Note: Fingguangdi Wen speaks Japanese, but the top executives all wear translation tools. Hi, everyone in the Jiangnan region. Hello. It's our first meeting. Please give me your guidance. I'm Fingguangdi Wenren, the leader of the Eclipse Group, and I'm very happy to meet you all. Recently, it seems that we have had some minor conflicts, which really makes us all very unpleasant. He made a gesture of pressing his hands down and put on a serious expression. I think we should all calm down at this time. In fact, we shouldn't become enemies, because continuing to fight will not benefit either of us. He raised a finger, and a cunning and indifferent light flashed in his eyes. What we want is just a piece of land in the area you call Central Plains for us to survive. Anyway, so many people in your country have died, and such a huge land is simply not enough. Why not take some out and give it to us poor wanderers? Of course, we will be very grateful for your kindness and remember your kindness forever. So, don't continue this farce. As long as you withdraw all the soldiers, promise not to attack us in the future, and give us a piece of land. Then, we will not massacre the people on this land anymore. Fingguangdi Wenren narrowed his eyes, and the corners of his mouth smiled like a fox. Please think carefully. I'm waiting for your response. But if we continue to fight, what will be the consequences? I believe you have seen it. The previous alien troops are the best examples. Chapter High-Level Meeting. The video basically ends here, and everyone in the conference room looks very ugly. No one is not surprisingly angry. These damn Ronin, they actually have such great ambitions to come to China, to claim territory. Bang! Zhu Zheng slammed the table on the spot. As a soldier, His eyes were almost on fire. Too rampant. These Ronin are so bold that they dare to run to our Chinese territory to make trouble. We must destroy them on the spot, leaving no one behind. Deng Shintong stood up. His slender physique and resolute eyes all revealed his confidence. Zhu Shuai, let me lead the team to destroy them. Give me 1 day. I will come to see you with their heads. Zhu Zheng looked at Deng Shintong, and a look of approval appeared in his eyes. Young people are just energetic. But at this moment, a cough sounded in the conference room. Cough, cough, cough. This sound made Zhu Zheng look sideways. Deng Yuanhua, the chairman of the Deng Group and Deng Shintong's uncle, put down his right hand and said with a smile, "Why bother to deal with these Ronin? Why not just use the love death to lock and bomb them?" He was a little short, in his 50s, but looked younger than his actual age, with smooth skin and no wrinkles. But his Buddha-like face always had a slight smile, which reminded people of the 4 words, "Harmony brings wealth." No one could see the change of his expression on his face. He was the head of the Deng family, Deng Yuanhua, known as the 8-faced Buddha. In the field of science and technology in Blizzard City, the Deng Group provided at least half of the help. Even Zhu Zheng had to give him some face. After hearing what Deng Yuanhua said, Deng Shintong immediately said anxiously, "Uncle, they are just some Ronin. Why bother to mobilize so many troops? I can take people over and kill them directly, can I?" Deng Yuanhua looked at him with a smile and gently pressed his hand. "Shintong, don't get excited.
Sit down.
Hey, you young people are really something. You get carried away easily when you encounter something. Why don't you use your brain to think about it first?" Deng Shintong still listened to his uncle's words and sat down honestly. But from his dissatisfied expression and the fingers tapping on the table, it can be seen that he still wants to fight Eclipse. Zhu Zheng looked at Deng Yuanhua and said with a smile, "Mr. Deng, the god of death of love cannot be used casually." He put his hands behind his back and said seriously, "The number of god of death of love in our Jiangnan district is limited, and every time it is used, it must be explained to other districts. The most important thing is that if we use this kind of killer weapon on our own land just to deal with a small group of Ronin organizations, wouldn't it tell others that there is no one in my Jiangnan district? I'm afraid that by then, the whole world will laugh at us." Deng Yuanhua smiled and shook his head. "Compared to the appearance, I think the substance is more important. We haven't figured out the strength of this Ronin organization yet. Although the 10 alien organizations are all aliens from the outer city, a large number of ants can kill an elephant. Not to mention that they are a group of hyenas. But such a powerful force was completely wiped out by Eclipse Moon in just 1 hour. I think even our investigation team would find it difficult to do such a thing." Deng Yuanhua's attitude was also very clear. This mission was too dangerous, and he didn't want his nephew to take risks. Deng Shintong was a talent that their Deng family focused on training, and they had high hopes for the future. A son of a rich family should not sit in the hall. Even when carrying out missions before, the Deng family would use all their strength every time to obtain enough intelligence before taking action. But the current situation is that the Jiangnan district has too little information about Eclipse Moon. Deng Yuanhua was worried. At this time, the Minister of Operations Tu Yunlai also spoke. "I don't think that Eclipse is stronger than the investigation team. According to our investigation, Eclipse is from Neon Kanto, and its members are of complex composition. They include gangsters, office workers, shrine maidens, and even students and stay-at-home people. Even though they have awakened their superpowers, they have not received professional training like the investigation team. This can be seen from the previous video. We are layman to layman, so it is easy for them to appear strong. However, this is not the case. In terms of combat quality, the God Squad is completely beyond them," Zhu Zheng also said, "and this time, it is not only the members of the God Squad who are taking action. I have also transferred some of the best aliens from the outer city to cooperate with them. These people, plus the God Squad, and the assistance of our entire Jiangnan region. It is definitely not a problem to take down these Ronin." Deng Yuanhua could only smile when he saw Zhu Zheng speaking so seriously. Although, as the head of the Deng family, he has a certain status and position in Blizzard City, it is impossible for him to openly sing a different tune with Zhu Zheng. However, He tactfully proposed another suggestion. In that case, can we first call back members of other investigation teams to participate in this operation? Lan Xinqing pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and said calmly, the Devil, Samsara, and other investigation teams are all carrying out very important task. If we talk about the task level, I'm afraid it won't be much lower than Linhai City. The Jiangnan region is too big. Now it's leveling the mountains and rivers and clearing up the chaos inside and outside. I don't know how busy it is. No one can rest. Hearing the names of other investigation teams, Deng Shintong frowned immediately. There's no need to wait for them to come back. This time, our Tianjin team can attack. If we wait for them to come back, I'm afraid these guys would have run away long ago. There is a subtle competition between the 6 major investigation teams, and they all hope to become the leader of the 6 major investigation teams. And Deng Shintong, the nobleman, cares about his reputation even more. If it gets out, he has to ask other investigation teams to assist him in doing the task. Wouldn't it be a joke? Deng Yuanbo frowned slightly, glanced at his nephew, and felt a little helpless. But before he could say anything, Zhu Zheng made the decision directly. That's right. Time waits for no one. What if these guys run to other cities and cause killings in other cities? It will be terrible. Let the Tianjin team be responsible for this mission. We must end this farce quickly. Even though they know there are risks, there are some things they have to do. The purpose of the investigation team's existence is not to let them do 100% safe tasks, but to use their own strength and blood to create a bright and clear world for this land. Deng Shintong said with a firm look, Yes, Commander. Zhu Zheng looked at him with a stern expression, but his eyes were somewhat soft. When the strangers in the outer city are all here, you have to meet them. After all, they are cooperating with your actions. Deng Shintong touched his chin and suddenly asked, Zhang Yi from Tianhai City, will he come on this operation? Zhu Zheng smiled and nodded. His name is indeed on the list. Chapter: Living in the Same Room. Zhang Yi chatted with Bailey Chongqing at the password bar and learned about some changes in Linhai City. He had already made some calculations in his mind. This time, his personal safety was still the first principle of the operation. While ensuring his own safety, he tried to kill as many Ronin as possible. After all, Eclipse Moon only had 13 people. Zhang Yi knew very well that they could cause chaos in Linhai City only because they had no power to restrain them. The jurisdiction of the Jiangnan district was too large, and it was impossible to concentrate a large number of troops to deal with them. Otherwise, if the 6 major investigation teams and 5,000 Yanyan guards took action, there would be no possibility of winning even if the number of Eclipse Moon doubled several times. Therefore, the end of this farce was inevitable, but the process was still unpredictable. Eclipse Moon could not be stupid enough to fight the Jiangnan district to the end. If they chose to escape or kept wandering around the Jiangnan district, that would be the most troublesome problem. Except for Blizzard City, the headquarters of the Jiangnan district, there was almost no city in the Jiangnan district that could compete with them. After all, it was an organization that gathered the most vicious thugs in Kanto. However, Tianhai City was an exception. If they run to Zhang Yi's territory, they can't get any advantage. But Zhang Yi doesn't want to see that result. In the afternoon, Zhang Yi received a notice from Lan Xinqing. He was told to go to the combat center tomorrow morning to attend the combat meeting. Zhang Yi laughed dumbly after seeing the news. I thought Zhu Shuai would talk to me alone. It seems that I thought too much. He shrugged at Bailey Chongqing. This is a good thing. It means that Zhu Zheng doesn't care too much about his existence, and Zhang Yi is also happy not to be noticed. Bailey Chongqing laughed. This time, the people summoned from the outer city are all top-notch players. It's not just you. It's not good for Zhu Shuai to meet one by one. It's more convenient for everyone to talk together. His eyes flashed. After all, this time, it involves very important and complicated things. You don't know a lot of information, and I have to explain it to you one by one. Zhang Yi nodded. That's good. He was also very interested in the top masters in the outer city. There were too many people last time, and he couldn't tell which one was strong and which one was weak. And this time, due to the special nature of the mission, The people who came must be masters with extraordinary strength. It would be nice to communicate with them. When Zhang Yi thought about this, he unconsciously forgot one thing in his heart: his strength is top-notch in the entire Jiangnan region. This is Zhang Yi's old problem. His overly cautious attitude makes him accustomed to paying attention to others. However, since Zhu Zheng will not see him today, then Zhang Yi reached out and knocked on the black plexiglass table and said to Bailey Chongqing with a smile, "Then let's drink together." Bailey Chongqing smiled and pressed the service bell. "Okay, let's drink to our heart's content today." Zhang Yi's alcohol tolerance has always been good. This night, he and Bailey Chongqing drank many bottles. Meng Siyu's cheeks were flushed, her body was shaking, and she had some difficulty walking. Wu Di came over with 2 bottles, his eyes burning to avenge Zhang Yi. Although he lost to Zhang Yi in the fight, he wanted to get back at the wine table. But this time, he lost even more miserably. Even Liang Yu, who had been silent all the time, was dragged by Meng Siyu to drink some. It was not until midnight that Bailey Chongqing drove Zhang Yi and the others to the apartment that entertained foreigners from other cities. I don't know if it was intentional or accidental, but Bailey Chongqing only opened one room for them. Liang Yu drank less, and her mind was still clear. She looked at Zhang Yi lying on the bed, and then she realized that the 2 of them were in the same room, and her face turned slightly red. Just when she wanted to open another room, Zhang Yi suddenly sat up from the bed. Although his eyes were a little erratic, his mind was still clear. That little bit of wine was not enough to make him drunk. With Zhang Yi's personality, it was impossible for him to get drunk in a strange place. "Are they all gone?" Zhang Yi yawned and asked. Liang Yu bit her lip, put the long knife aside, and said leisurely, "Let's go." "Are you pretending to be drunk?" "That's not the case," Zhang Yi said lightly. "Even if I'm drunk, my head is clear." He did drink a lot, but only at the beginning. Later, when Wu Di and Lian came to fight him, Zhang Yi secretly used the ability of the alien space to pour most of the wine in. He took out a bottle of milk from the alien space and asked Liang Yu to help her heat it up with a kettle. Then Zhang Yi sat on the sofa in the room. With a wave of his hand, Huahua jumped up and sat cross-legged on his thighs. Zhang Yi stroked Huahua while leaning on the sofa thinking about the information he got today. His eyes were bright and sparkling with wisdom. This time the region summoned the top aliens from the outer city, instead of summoning various forces like last time. This means that the tactics have begun to change. It is no longer a battle of encirclement and annihilation using the advantage of numbers, but the use of elite team. In other words, the advantage of numbers is no longer useful? Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. This approach is indeed correct. After the level of the aliens reaches Delta, especially the combat aliens, their strength has far exceeded the scope of human understanding. Even most light thermal weapons can be ignored. In this state, low-level aliens and ordinary humans, even well-trained warriors, are difficult to play a role in front of them. After the 10 alien organizations were destroyed, the Jiangnan region realized this and began to change its combat methods. Next, the team will be led by the God Squad, and the aliens in the outer city will most likely assist in the battle. What are the responsibilities of himself and other aliens in the outer city? Cannon fodder? Zhang Yi whispered these 2 words. But soon he shook his head and denied this idea. If cannon fodder is needed, a large number of ordinary aliens and elite warriors are the best choice. And this time, the people who were transferred here are definitely stronger than the aliens from the first batch of the top 10 alien organizations. Although the overall combat capability of our aliens in the outer city is not as good as that of the professional team in Blizzard City, but their individual combat capabilities are not necessarily much weaker than theirs. According to some of the intelligence we got before, Eclipse Moon has only 13 members. In any case, we are at an advantage in numbers. So, the district's consideration is for us to contain those people, and then create opportunities for the God Squad. Liang Yu warmed the milk and handed it to Zhang Yi. I think maybe they just want us to make sure those Ronin don't escape. After all, once they find that something is wrong, they may just run away. Chasing them is much more difficult than annihilating them. Chapter Heartbeat. Zhang Yi nodded, took the bottle, and drank a mouthful of warm milk. After drinking the wine, drinking this again really makes people feel a lot warmer and more comfortable in the stomach.
Yes.
It's easy to tell the winner, but this is a war and others won't fight you to death. They will use all kinds of conspiracies, and they will run away if they can't beat them. He suddenly thought of an interesting fable and looked at Liang Yu with a smile. Teacher Liang, I want to ask you a question. What should we do if a mouse runs into the ammunition depot with fire in its mouth? Liang Yu blinked, and she quickly reacted. This is a very classic story from a film and television work decades ago. Then let the cat chase with water in its mouth. She said with a smile. We are cats, and Eclipse is a mouse. Zhang Yi smiled and asked, but in this story, what are water and fire? Liang Yu frowned slightly, and she was a little puzzled by this question. Fire should refer to the various negative impacts they bring. As long as they exist, the region will not be stable, and to the outside world, people will think that our Jiangnan region is incompetent. As for water, I don't know. Water is used to put out fires. How does the Jiangnan region plan to deal with these Ronin? How does she know? Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Perhaps this water is us. We? I don't quite understand. Liang Yu was confused. Zhang Yi rubbed Huahua's head hard. We act together with the Tianqian team, and the main force is naturally the Tianqian team. Then, we may be the objects of sacrifice. If possible, I believe that the senior management of the regional headquarters will not mind using our lives to exchange for the demise of the Eclipse group. Don't you think so? This is Zhang Yi's biggest concern. He doesn't mind facing danger and competing with Eclipse. But he doesn't want to be cannon fodder either. Liang Yu's eyes shook violently. She wanted to say something, but when the words came to her lips, she didn't know how to start. Indeed, according to common sense, this is the case. I don't think there's anything wrong with what the Jiangnan district did. Even on the battlefield, there are ways to lure the enemy in deep so that some soldiers can be sacrificed as bait. Wars like this. In order to win the overall victory, small soldiers and even large vehicles can be sacrificed. Everything is for the final victory.
But
Zhang Yi emphasized his tone. He lowered his head and stroked Huahua, feeling the soft warmth of its fur, which has always been his favorite. I'm not that great. Especially with you and Huahua. When we are together, we need to be more careful. No matter what happens, you have to remember one thing. Put our own safety first. Once you find that there is a danger to your life, escape to a safe place as soon as possible. Liang Yu was silent for a moment after listening. She suddenly raised her head and asked Zhang Yi seriously, even if the mission fails because of our escape, do you still have to do this? Zhang Yi glanced at her with a playful and teasing look. Do you think too highly of yourself? If Jiangnan district really wants to destroy Eclipse Moon, they can do anything. They are just weighing whether the price they need to pay is worth it. There is even a possibility. If the price they need to pay is too high, they may negotiate with Eclipse Moon and allow them to survive on this land. Now is the end of the world. Everyone has their own interests to protect. Even the high-level officials of Blizzard City will definitely not be an exception. Liang Yu was shocked. She said excitedly, this is impossible. If such a thing is done, people will curse it. But Zhang Yi smiled and said, since the day when Blizzard City convened all the alien organizations in Jiangnan District to hold a meeting and established the Superpower Federation, it means that Blizzard City is unable to govern the entire district. This is not only the current situation of this land, but also the whole world. China is strong and can still maintain the stability of the 6 districts. In other regions, many are falling apart, and there are many alien forces of all sizes. Even Neon itself is divided into 2 major organizations, the Pelican in Kansai and the Izumo in Kanto. There are also many undercurrents such as Eclipse Moon, which intend to overthrow the superiors. Conflicts and chaos will become more frequent with the emergence and growth of the aliens. To use the classic words of the 3 kingdoms, it is the general trend of the world, and after a long period of division, there will be unification, and after a long period of unification, there will be division. Zhang Yi had already prepared in his heart. However, although Liang Yu had experienced the previous changes and her character had changed a lot, it is difficult to change a person's nature. Zhang Yi must explain it to her clearly to prevent her from getting too excited at the critical moment. After all, it is not the first time that she has taken risks because of excessive enthusiasm. Liangyu is not as good at speaking as Zhang Yi. She pouted her lips, and after a long silence, she hugged her arms and said, "Everything is your reason." "I know, anyway, I will do whatever you ask me to do, when the time comes." She teaches physical education. She is very good at using a knife. But asking her to use her brain was a bit embarrassing. Zhang Yi nodded with satisfaction. "That's right." Zhang Yi looked at her, and then looked at Hua, who was snoring on his thigh, and looked like she was enjoying it. He felt that such a partner was really great. Strong fighting power and obedient, it couldn't be better. Thinking that he had to go to a meeting tomorrow, Zhang Yi said, "Okay, it's getting late. Let's rest early." As he said that, he stood up with Hua in his arms and planned to take a shower and go to bed. Liang Yu's face turned red. Rest. Zhang Yi blinked, and then he remembered that Bailey Chongqing only opened one room for them. I don't know if he drank too much and forgot about this. Maybe Bailey Chongqing felt that the relationship between the two of them was unusual. Oh no, it's already this time, and the management of the apartment has already rested. Zhang Yi touched his chin and felt a little troubled. God and God are conscientious. This is not his intention. At that time, his mind was full of thoughts about dealing with Eclipse Moon, and he didn't think about this at all. Liang Yu's face flushed with embarrassment. She forced herself to remain calm, turned the doorknob, and prepared to go out. "I'd better go out first," Zhang Yi said indifferently behind her. "It's so cold outside at night. Do you want to freeze to death? Besides, if you don't rest well today, you will attend such an important meeting tomorrow. Aren't you going to make a fool of yourself?" Liang Yu lowered her head and spoke in a mosquito-like voice. "But there is only one room. How can I sleep?" Zhang Yi took a look at the bed in the room, which was a large double bed. "This bed is quite big. It doesn't matter if we squeeze in."